Spy: The Eternal City is the sequel to 2020's My Spy, a movie that came out during the pandemic starring Dave Bautista, and a movie that surprised me. I thought that was going to be absolute trash, and I just thought it was okay, and it was a fun enough time. Veteran CIA operative JJ and his 14-year-old stepdaughter and protege Sophie reunite to save the world when a high school choir tour of Italy is interrupted by a nefarious nuclear plot targeting the Vatican. This is going to fall into one of those movies that it's just fine. It's a lot better than I expected because usually with movies like this, you get something like Olympus Has Fallen, and then you get something like London Has Fallen, which is far, far inferior to the original in every single way you could think of. There are some things that I think My Spy: The Eternal City does better than the original one. There are some things that it doesn't do better than the original one, and there's some things that it doesn't do at all that the original one did, and it's just a fine movie. It's an okay movie. It's passable. And that's kind of been the common theme here between Fly Me to the Moon, which I'm surprised I even remembered that I reviewed because, like I said, it was a forgettable movie. In this movie, we're just getting things that you could just throw on in the background, or just if you have some time to kill, just put them on and you can watch them and you can have a fun time. It's harmless, it's a light entertainment to consume. That's what My Spy: The Eternal City is. It's an action comedy like the first one that I think actually handles the tone of the action comedy a lot better than the first one. The first one had scenes where it would go from funny to serious to funny to serious, and I think that they were able to hone it down in this one a little bit more and actually figure out how to mix the action and the comedy in this one to feel like it blends together naturally. And they do that a lot here. A lot of the serious scenes have the comedy in them, but it doesn't feel like it's like overtly serious. Like I feel like some scenes in the first one felt like they were. This one feels like it's more naturally woven in with the tone. So tonally, it doesn't feel like it's all over the place as the first one did. That's something that I think that they really improved on here. And I love watching Dave Bautista. I'm not going to say he's an exceptional actor or anything, but he is getting to the point where it's just anything that he's in, I want to watch because Dave Bautista, out of all of the wrestling stars, the WWE stars that have transitioned into acting, he's by far my favorite. And I think he is the best one. He's just a guy who brings a lot of charisma. He's just a guy where it's like you look at him, he's the guy. He's the man, you know? It's like he's the likable dude of the group. And having Ken Jeong and Kristen Skull come into play here, I don't really remember them so much in the first one having to do much with the plot or the story. They're more involved in this one. I think I have to go back and watch the first one. Maybe Kristen Skull probably has the same amount of involvement as she did in the first one. Here, I like their roles a lot more. I like that the plot kind of revolves around them, and then we get this little team of CIA operatives consisting of CIA operatives and two kids that really form this unique tandem. And that's really where the heart and soul of the movie is. And the heart and soul of the movie is also the budding relationship between Sophie and JJ. Obviously, he's her stepfather now, and there's things that are happening now that she's a teenager involving teen angst. And for the first 30 to 45 minutes of this movie, I was not feeling it. I was just like, let's get to the espionage stuff because this is not working. And the opening scene for me did not work at all because I sat there on my laptop watching this thinking, oh shit. This is exactly what every sequel to a movie that's just entertainment and perfectly fine is. This is really going to dictate why the first movie did not need a sequel. And after that, it luckily got better. It's still competently made. There are scenes though where the CGI really sticks out. Like there is a set piece involving birds. And I looked at it, I was like, that has got to be the fakest, most CGI bird I have ever seen in a movie. And then there's like thousands of them. It makes for a funny scene, but I couldn't take itself seriously when I was laughing at the close ups of the birds because I knew that they were CGI and they looked fake as hell. But the stunt work, for the most part, is really good. And the action isn't too intense. So if you can watch it with your kids, if your kids say, hey, I like the first one, it wasn't too intense. If you're worried that this one's a bit more intense, there might be a couple of action scenes here, like towards the end, the final set piece, that may have a bit too much intensity for kids, where you see cars ramming into things and cars going downstairs and people are in danger. If you're a little bit worried about that, this is still light enough for kids to consume. It's a good family movie, even if it is a little bit more on the action side. I think that this one, once the action kicks off, becomes a really entertaining movie, despite a really terrible villain. Yet again, these two movies have some really terrible villains. The villain here is played by Anna Faris. I thought she was awful in the movie. The motivation was really, really stupid. And I just felt that the plan was very, very generic for an action comedy. I'm not asking action comedies to be these globe-trotting adventures like a James Bond or a Mission Impossible movie. Speaking of James Bond, that brief reference to Goldfinger, I love that. This is essentially a movie that for the last two-thirds of the movie takes place in one location, but up the stakes a little bit. This is the second movie in what could potentially be a trilogy or a franchise, and I feel like the stakes just aren't upped as much as they should be. There's also a missing element here with JJ and Sophie. I love their little relationship in the first one, and I get that they're older now. JJ is her stepfather. She's a teenager. She's developing certain feelings. She's getting all those hormones. She's hitting puberty. But there was just a little bit more of a charm of the relationship in the first one that I felt was missing here compared to what was happening in the first one. Like, for instance, I remember that scene in the first one where he was taking her under his wing and she was like walking away from the explosion, and then he turns her head like this so that she can see the explosion. And it was just little intricacies in their relationship and little ticks like that in their relationship that I thought that their relationship in this movie was missing. Instead, it just came across as teen angsty stepdaughter doesn't bond with stepfather, but now we're going to have this whole movie where she has to learn the meaning of life and the meaning of relationships and family, and that's essentially what it is. It's everything you've seen before, but it's easy enough to consume, and it's easy enough to look at this movie and say, oh, this is going to be horrible, or oh, this is going to be great. There's no common middle ground anymore, and that's really essentially where I am with My Spy the Eternal City, as I was with the first one. It's just somewhere in the middle. It's a movie that I can put on at any time of the day. This is how I always equate these types of movies, and I did this with Fly Me to the Moon. I still can't believe I remember that I saw that. Is that it's only worth a one-time watch. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way to see it again, but if somebody asks me, do you want to watch it? I'd say yeah, because I didn't hate it. There's things that this movie does better. There's things that it does worse. There's things that it doesn't do at all that I wish it kind of did. But hey, if we get more of these and they can continue to be as entertaining as they are, I'm all for it. Just stop with the slow buildups though, because usually sequels to these types of movies, they have the slow buildup and then the action and the plot kicks in. It takes way too long to get to the plot, and I hope that if they make a third one or if they make more of them, they can write their villains better, because these villains in these movies are not good. I think My Spy the Eternal City is enjoyable enough with half a bucket of popcorn. Serviceable enough action comedy that I think balances the action comedy bits better than its predecessor. So if you have seen My Spy the Eternal City, it's actually going to be out tomorrow on Amazon Prime. Let me know what you think of it once you see it in the comment section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.